Alright, I need you all to be brutally honest with me. Just how royally did I screw things up? Because I'm sitting here in what feels like a museum of my own failure. It's been 3 days, 72 agonizing hours, since Selene last responded to one of my frantic novel-length texts. Half of her clothes are gone from the closet. Not all of them, which is the cruelest part. She took her work blazers, her sensible shoes, the things that define her professional life. But she left the faded band t-shirt I bought her and the ridiculously soft sweater she always wore on movie nights. It's like she surgically removed her future from our apartment while leaving the ghosts of our past to haunt me. And me, I'm the ghost keeper. I'm stuck here pacing the floors of our home that suddenly echoes with every step. My thumb is raw from compulsively checking my phone, my heart leaping at every phantom buzz. I just keep staring at that final, pathetic blue bubble under my last message. Delivered. It's a digital purgatory. I know I messed up. I know what I did was monumentally stupid. But was it this bad? Was it erase 5 years of us bad? I feel like a fool on death row, waiting for an executioner who won't even grant me a final word. To everyone in college, we were the couple, Sienna and Selene. Our names even sounded good together. I was the firecracker, the one with the grand plans and the loud opinions, the one who could talk my way into any party and out of any trouble. Selene was my calm center, the steady, brilliant force who grounded me. She was quieter, more observant, with a work ethic that could power a small city. People saw us as a perfect balance, and for a long time we were. But the truth, the one I'm only now admitting to myself in this godforsaken silence, is that I never saw us as equals. Her successes felt like extensions of my own ambition. I was the architect of her career. That's the narrative I built for myself for us. I remember sitting in the campus library with her first real resume, a timid document full of part-time jobs and volunteer work. I took a red pen to it like a butcher to a carcass. No, no, babe, I'd said, tapping the paper. You can't lead with the library volunteer work, they don't care. You lead with the data analysis project I helped you structure. You have to sell the impact. Our tiny apartment became a corporate boot camp before her first big interview. I'd sit on the couch, cross-legged, playing the role of some hard-ass hiring manager, grilling her relentlessly. She'd stumble and I'd correct her, pushing and polishing until her answers were flawless, my words coming out of her mouth. She was always so grateful and I soaked it up. It felt good to be the one who knew best. It was our dynamic. My role was to strategize and hers was to execute. That rigid morality of hers should have been a giant, flashing neon sign. I think about the Kevin incident now. A colleague named Kevin had fudged his expense report after a business trip. We're talking maybe $20 on a cab fare. It was nothing. I told her to let it go, that it wasn't her problem. She looked at me, genuinely baffled by my suggestion. It's not about the money, Sienna, she said, her voice completely serious. It's about integrity. If the foundation is cracked, the whole building is unstable. How can I trust his judgment on a major client account if he's willing to lie about a taxi receipt? She didn't report him, but she iced him out completely, professionally and personally. I just laughed it off back then, calling her my little moral compass, my adorable stick in the mud. It was a cute quirk, not a core operating principle. I never ever thought that same unbending, absolute code of right and wrong would one day be applied, with zero mercy, to me. Our careers had been on different trajectories for a while. I was at a buzzy tech startup, a place with a ping pong table and kombucha on tap, but it was a chaotic scramble for funding and recognition. My job title was fluid, my successes abstract. Selene, on the other hand, was methodically climbing the ladder at a massive, prestigious pharmaceutical firm. It was stable, respectable, and in my view, a little boring. But she was thriving. Then came the promotion, not just any promotion. She was up for regional marketing director. It was a huge leap, a six-figure salary with a corner office kind of deal. The kind of job that made parents brag at dinner parties, the kind of job my own parents were starting to pointedly ask why I didn't have. When she got the news, I did what I was supposed to do. I threw her a party. I invited all our friends, bought expensive champagne, and made a big performative speech about how proud I was. And a part of me was, but underneath that pride was this ugly, coiling thing in my gut. It was envy, but sharper, more personal. It felt like a betrayal of our established order. As our friends clinked glasses and showered her with praise, I watched her. She was radiant, confident, effortlessly commanding the room. This wasn't the uncertain girl whose interview answers I had scripted. This was a woman who had arrived, entirely on her own terms. The real poison started seeping in later that night as we were cleaning up the confetti and empty bottles. She was still buzzing, recounting conversations, talking about her new team, her new responsibilities. She was mapping out her future, and for the first time, I felt like I wasn't holding the blueprint. She thanked me for the party, kissed me, said she was lucky to have me, but she never said the words I was subconsciously, desperately waiting for. I couldn't have done it without you. She didn't acknowledge my role as the architect. In her narrative of success, I had been demoted from mastermind to supportive girlfriend. That night, lying in bed next to her sleeping form, the silence was deafening. I wasn't her proud partner. I was a dethroned queen staring at her usurper. The feeling was so intense, so poisonous, it felt like I was physically choking on it. My brilliant creation had forgotten its creator. That night, sleep was impossible. Selene was beside me, breathing deeply after a couple of glasses of champagne, completely at peace in the glow of her achievement. I was wide awake, her success buzzing under my skin like a swarm of angry bees. Every congratulatory text that had made her phone light up earlier felt like a personal insult. My mind started racing, replaying every moment I had coached her, every piece of advice I'd given. It all curdled into a singular toxic thought: she needs a reminder of who's really the smart one here. She needs to be brought down a peg just a little so she remembers she still needs me. It was a disgusting, childish impulse, but it felt overwhelmingly powerful, like a fever I couldn't break. I saw her phone charging on the nightstand, its screen a dark mirror reflecting my own twisted face. I knew her passcode. She'd told me ages ago in case of an emergency, a gesture of complete trust that now felt like a weapon in my hands. My heart started hammering against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat of don't do it, don't do it. A sane, rational voice, the one that sounded a lot like Selene, was screaming at me, "This is insane, Sienna. This is a line you can never, ever uncross." But another voice, a venomous, insecure whisper, was louder, more seductive, just a little prank, a harmless joke to shake her confidence. She'll get a little flustered, she'll come to you for help, and the universe will right itself. She'll need her architect again. My hand moved as if it had a will of its own, a cold, detached limb. I picked up the phone, the cool glass feeling like a block of ice. My thumb hovered over the screen before I typed in the numbers, her birthday. The irony was sickening. I scrolled through her apps, my eyes scanning past photos of us, past our shared calendar until I found it, the sterile blue icon for her corporate messaging. My fingers were trembling, slick with sweat. I found the group chat labeled "Num Marketing Leadership." My eyes scanned the names: VPS, senior directors, people whose approval she had worked tirelessly for years to earn. And then I did it. I typed out a message, channeling a caricature of the arrogant, overconfident person I secretly feared she was becoming. Now that I'm taking the lead, I expect we'll be trimming the fat from a lot of the old, inefficient protocols. Hope everyone is ready to keep up. It was obnoxious, it was condescending, it was career suicide in 23 words. I hit send. For a split second, a wave of nauseating panic washed over me. Then, with a frantic surge of adrenaline, I deleted the message from her sent folder, uninstalled the app from her phone to hide the evidence, and placed the device back on the charger, perfectly aligned. I lay back down, my body electric with a horrifying mix of vindictive satisfaction and pure, unadulterated terror. I had just set a bomb, and I was lying next to ground zero. The next morning, the silence in the apartment was the first thing I noticed. It wasn't the usual peaceful quiet of a Saturday. It was a heavy, suffocating silence, thick with a dread that clung to the air like humidity. I walked into the living room and found her. Selene was sitting bolt upright on the edge of the couch, perfectly still, staring at her open laptop. She was wearing the soft, worn-out pajamas I bought her for Christmas, but she looked like a stranger dressed in her clothes. Her face was pale, devoid of any emotion, which was far more terrifying than tears or rage would have been. She didn't look up when I came in. "Morning," I said, my voice sounding ridiculously cheerful and fake, a desperate attempt to pretend this was just another day. She didn't answer for a long moment, then she slowly lifted her head and looked at me, her eyes were hollow, exhausted. "They traced the IP address, Sienna," she said. Her voice was flat, a monotone that chilled me to the bone. It was the voice she used when delivering bad news about a failed project at work. Clinical, detached. The message was sent at 2:17 a.m. from our home network, from this apartment. She paused, letting the words hang in the air between us like a death sentence. "I'm on indefinite administrative leave pending a formal investigation into a breach of professional conduct. My boss, the one who championed me, called me at 7 this morning to ask if my account had been compromised." My blood ran cold. My throat closed up. I opened my mouth to spew the lies I had rehearsed in my head. "Your account must have been hacked. We have to call the police. Someone must be targeting you." But the words wouldn't come. The look on her face told me she already knew. She wasn't accusing me, she was confirming a fact. Why? She asked. It was the only question. Not how could you, not what were you thinking, just a simple, devastating why. And that's when I completely fell apart. The pathetic excuses tumbled out of me in a torrent of self-pity and delusion. It was just a stupid joke. I was drunk, I wasn't thinking. I was just trying to be funny to knock you down a little playfully. I was going to help you fix it. She just watched me, her expression unchanging, as if she were a scientist observing a particularly disappointing specimen. When I finally ran out of steam, my voice cracking, she interrupted my pathetic babbling. Stop, she said, and the single word had the force of a physical slap. Just stop talking. It wasn't a joke. A joke doesn't involve violating my privacy and methodically attempting to sabotage my career. She finally stood up, her movements slow and deliberate like an old woman. I've spent 5 years building my reputation. I've built it on hard work and integrity. You took a match to all of it in 5 minutes because of what? Your ego couldn't handle my success? She looked at me then, truly looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes I had never seen before. Not anger, not sadness, but a deep, profound disappointment that was somehow worse than both. It was the look of someone realizing they've been in love with a complete stranger. I look at you, and I don't know who you are anymore, she said quietly. And with that, she turned and walked into the bedroom. A moment later, I heard the unmistakable final sound of a suitcase being unzipped. In the days that followed Selini's departure, I descended into a pathetic spiral of denial and desperation. I bombarded her phone with calls that went straight to voicemail and texts that remained stubbornly blue and undelivered. I was convinced that if I could just explain it one more time, in the right way, she'd understand. It was a mistake, a catastrophic lapse in judgment, not a reflection of who I truly was. But the wall of silence was absolute. My last resort was Amelia, our closest mutual friend. I called her in a tearful panic, spinning a heavily edited version of the story where my actions were a drunken, thoughtless prank, and Selini's reaction was a wild overcorrection. I needed an ally, someone to tell Selini she was being too harsh, to mediate a peace treaty. I needed someone to validate my narrative. Amelia listened patiently on the other end of the line as I sobbed and rationalized. When I finished, the silence that followed was heavy and uncomfortable. It wasn't the sympathetic silence I was hoping for. Sienna, she finally said, her voice stripped of its usual warmth, replaced by a clinical coldness. What exactly do you want me to say? Tell her I'm sorry, tell her it was the stupidest mistake of my life, I pleaded. She knows you're sorry you got caught, Amelia shot back, and the bluntness of it felt like a punch to the gut. But what you did, that wasn't a mistake, it was a choice. You chose to hurt her because you couldn't stand seeing her shine. She took a breath, and what she said next completely shattered my remaining defenses. She called me the morning after, crying, not because of her job, but because of you. She said, and I'm telling you this because you need to hear it. She said, the worst part, Amy, is that I finally realized she never wanted me to fly. She just wanted me to be a prettier kite on her string. That's it, Sienna, that's what you did. You cut her string because she was flying higher than you. The call ended shortly after that. I just sat there, phone in my hand, the echo of Amelia's words ringing in my ears. A prettier kite on her string. The metaphor was so precise, so devastatingly accurate, it left no room for argument. It was the truth, a truth I had never been willing to admit to myself. Selini hadn't just left me, she had seen me. For the first time, she had seen the ugly, insecure woman hiding behind the mask of the supportive girlfriend, and she had run. It's been a month now. The deafening silence from Selini has become a low, constant hum in the background of my life. The investigation at her work concluded, as I found out through the grapevine. She wasn't fired. They transferred her to a different division, a lateral move that still felt like a demotion, a permanent stain on her record that I put there. The apartment is officially mine now, her name is off the lease. Her absence is a physical presence, a cold spot in the bed, an extra coffee mug in the cabinet. My life has shrunk to the size of my phone screen. I deleted my main social media accounts, unable to face the curated happiness of others or the inevitable questions from friends. But I have a burner account, a ghost profile with no name and no followers. It has one purpose: to watch her. I check her LinkedIn profile 5, maybe 6 times a day just to see that her new title, Senior Project Manager, is still there. It feels less powerful than Regional Director. A small, sick part of me finds a sliver of comfort in that. Last week, she posted for the first time since everything happened. It was a picture on her Instagram, which she'd made private, but I could still see it through Amelia's account when she was showing me something else. A group photo at a beach bonfire. She was in the middle, surrounded by friends holding a beer and laughing. It wasn't a posed, forced smile. It was a genuine, deep belly laugh, the kind I hadn't seen from her in years. She looked free, she looked happy, and she looked utterly, completely fine without me. Every flicker of the firelight on her smiling face felt like a hot poker against my heart. I just stare at that photo, zooming in on her face, a digital stalker trapped in a hell of my own making, endlessly refreshing the page, hoping for a new glimpse into the life I destroyed, the life that is now thriving without me.